All right, so let's start this broadcast with the big story that we are tracking on WION at this hour. The Gaza Strip has been under siege without access to food, electricity, water and other fuel supplies for over 42 long days now. The life in the crowded enclave has gone from bad to worse. And Gaza, which is home to 2.3 million people, has been under consistent Israeli bombardment. What has also compounded the suffering of the Gazan people are the constant evacuation ultimatums that are being issued by the State of Israel. Displacement and deprivation are now the defining features of life in the Gaza Strip. On Saturday, the Palestinians continued to flee from their homes in search of safety after Israel's latest warning, which asked the people to evacuate from the southern part of Gaza, which was in Khan Yunis. Now, Israel has denied issuing such order, but with most communication lines shut across Gaza, confusion has in fact taken over.
أنا أجيت من منطقة الجنوب وبيتنا انقصر وأجينا هنا على المدرسة لأنه مش متوفر عندنا لا غاز ولا أي شيء والحال صعب يعني وهينا بنعمل على النار الأكل للأولاد وما فيش يعني أي مساعدات يعني بتصل فالله يعيننا على حالنا ولا في غاز ولا أي شيء والوضع صعب يعني جدا متدهور.
Earlier, many people in fact started fleeing from the Al-Shifa hospital. This after reports stating that Israel had given an ultimatum of no more than an hour, demanding that everyone inside the premises of the Al-Shifa hospital should flee. Later, Israel put out a clarification stating that it had not issued any kind of an evacuation order for people who had taken refuge inside the Al-Shifa hospital. In fact, Al-Shifa's doctor has said that most medical staff and patients had in fact left the hospital, which remember has become the primary target in the last week of Israel's ground offensive. As Israel continues with its claim that the Al-Shifa hospital, underneath the Al-Shifa hospital, Hamas has built one of its biggest command centers there is. In addition to this, leaflets asking people to leave from Khan Yunis have in fact been dropped. This is the biggest city in southern Gaza. The latest order would of course mean relocation for thousands of Gazans all over again. Now remember, earlier Israel had demanded that all people in the northern part of Gaza should go to the south of Wadi Gaza into the southern part of the Gaza Strip. Now Israel, for its part at this moment, says that it has not issued an evacuation order in southern areas as well, but amidst confusion and chaos and exodus, there are a lot of people in the Palestinian part of the Gaza Strip who simply have no idea what Israel is saying at this moment, because the southern part of Gaza was supposed to be a safe space, but even that has been repeatedly bombed, and there have been leaflets that have been dropped in parts of Khan Yunis which are demanding that people should flee from Khan Yunis as well.
صار علينا لا مية ولا كهرب ونوم على البلاط وولادنا عيانين ايش بدك تقولك اكثر من هيك وتعبانين وشقيانين وبنقول حسبي الله ونعم الوكيل.
Now, according to the United Nations, at least about 1.6 million people within the Gaza Strip out of a population of 2.3 million have been driven out from their homes. The civilians continue to flee from northern Gaza. Many were in fact hit by strikes while they were on their way to the south. This is the reality of what life is like for the people who are trying to flee from northern Gaza. Israel has continued with its relentless campaign of bombing the Palestinian territory. This is after 40 days of relentlessly having bombed this tiny strip of land. And since then, there seems to be literally no place that is safe in Gaza. And amidst the displacement, shelling has continued. At least about 80 people have been killed in Israeli strikes in the Jabalia refugee camp. This is the biggest refugee camp in the Gaza Strip.
المجازر اللي ارتكبوها في كل الشمال ما خلوا ولا مدرسة آمنة ولا خلوا مستشفى آمن ولا خلوا مكان آمن ولا بيت آمن كل العالم تتفرج علينا.
Now, due to the continued siege and strikes, the supply of critical supplies has been very badly affected. The United Nations World Food Programme has said that civilians facing immediate possibility of starvation due to the lack of food supplies, and there are fears that infections could of course now break out because of poor sanitation, because the people in Gaza have no access to water. questions also arise. Where can the people of Gaza in fact flee to? Is there any space that is safe in the besieged strip? But to give us more perspective in terms of what is happening at this moment in the Gaza Strip, we're being joined by Mr. Mohammed Najib. He's joining us live from Ramallah. He's a journalist and also a war correspondent and a security analyst. Now, Mr. Najib, there are reports that are emerging in the last couple of hours where it's being reported that a United Nations-run school inside the Jabalia refugee camp has in fact been bombed not once but twice by the Israelis, resulting in at least about 80 casualties so far. What information are you picking up at your end?
Yes, the Israeli armed forces fired and struck and attacked Al-Fakhura Norwa school in Jabalia refugees camp, the largest populated refugee camp in northern Gaza Strip. And as you mentioned, around 80 killed and another dozens injured, according to the Palestinian medical resources. And the situation are extremely difficult, and this school is not the first time. It also was bombed on the 4th of November, where 12 were killed and 54 were injured by the Israeli airstrike. So the Palestinian Ministry of Foreign Affairs issued a statement and considered this a war against civilians and targeting deliberately civilian of the Palestinians who were displaced from their homes and have no other shelter except the UNRWA schools or the hospitals. And
right.
So we heard this evening that the Israelis forced 5,000 Palestinians who were displaced from their homes and took a shelter at the Shifa hospital to leave the hospitals and to walk all the distance towards southern Gaza. So the situation are escalated in Gaza, and the anger mounted because of the Israeli targeting of the civilians.
Absolutely.
In the Gaza Strip.
Now, in the course of the last fortnight, in the last 14 odd days, Israel has been repeatedly saying that Hamas has got its command center underneath the Al-Shifa hospital. The Al-Shifa hospital, the biggest medical center in the Gaza Strip, was also raided by the Israelis. What this has done effectively is that the medical infrastructure in the Gaza Strip is now the forefront of the war that is at this moment being waged. Give us a sense of what the medical infrastructure is like within the Gaza Strip at this moment.
Yeah, not all the hospitals in Gaza Strip can provide emergency departments. So when the Israelis attack Palestinians, they need to transfer to the emergency departments at the hospitals. And Al-Shifa hospital has the largest emergency section that can handle and treat injured because of this war. So the Palestinians also took that shelter. There are 14,000 Palestinians who were displaced from northern Gaza, took shelter at the Shifa hospital. Actually, this is not new. From 2014 right now, Israel accused Hamas of taking a Shifa hospital as a command post. And when the Israelis raided the hospital and investigated, they didn't find any proof that convinced the world that it was a command for the Hamas. And the incitement against the medical centers, there is no fuel, there is no electricity, no water, no medical supplies. The ambulances targeted the medical staff, a shortage of medical staff, so they are unable to provide medical services to injured, which threaten their life. There are 500 kidney failure patients who cannot receive the medical service. They are babies who require and need oxygen. There are others who are in the ICU. So it is terrible that the civilians and the patients, according to the international and humanitarian laws, the hospitals and medical centers should be excluded from any
Mr. Najib, we're short of time, but I also want to ask you this question. The focus of the world is, of course, on what is happening in the Gaza Strip, but even in the West Bank, where Hamas does not even exist, because Israel says that it is going after Hamas, but in the West Bank, Hamas does not exist. But we've been witnessing repeated incursions by the Israeli military into places such as Jenin. There are reports of drone strikes, and at least about 170 plus people in the West Bank, the Palestinian people, are being killed. What is happening at this moment in West Bank, and why is it that the Israeli forces are resorting to this aggression in the West Bank?
Yes, since 7 October right now, the Israeli heavy crackdown on the West Bank, militarily by the IDF, that attacking the Palestinian villages, towns, refugees camp every night. And those raids ended by clashes, armed clashes or stone clashes between Palestinians and the IDF. And then,
but what is the IDF trying to achieve? Because at this moment, what is baffling to a lot of people who are watching this from outside of Palestine is, why is the IDF at this moment going after people within the West Bank?
The IDF is revenging from the West Bank. For example, they reactivated and set up a new 750 checkpoints from northern West Bank to the southern West Bank. And this restricts the freedom of movement for Palestinians. They are also preventing Palestinians from using the main roads to go between the cities and the villages. So they make their life miserable. They are arresting people who write on the Facebook or social media or make likes. They are people who were arrested 10 years ago or 15 years ago as Hamas or activists or supported Hamas or who appear on the TVs or whatever. So it's like a heavy crackdown. They don't want to open a new front in the West Bank. So they try to deter the West Bank and to keep the focus and the concentration on the Gaza front at this time. So they make the life of Palestinians extremely difficult by raids, injuring Palestinians, arresting Palestinians, and killing Palestinians, who are 212 right now killed since 7 October, which is an unprecedented number of those who killed in a short time like this.
Right. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Najib, for joining us and getting us that perspective there.
Thank you.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.